My question is there a concern on your age? Like in fasting, I've heard that it's not necessarily good for you to fast if you're menopausal. Yes or no?
I'll take that question since I'm menopausal. You might be referring to some of the information out there about how important hormonally it is to have fats. And yes, there is information out there about not fasting. I don't go with that because I've looked so much into the benefits of fasting and personally have not had any negative consequences from it. So I always go by N equals 1. Go ahead. Why not try 72 hours, 36 hours, see how you feel, how you go. For me, I'll just say my personal history with fasting, just so you sort of just get my perspective of it. I've always really majorly disliked water fasting. I avoided fasting, hated the feeling of being hungry. And then I came about and discovered dry fasting and couldn't believe how much easier it was for me and for many people who have then, tried dry fasting. You think it's insane. You think you're going to just die of thirst. You think you're going to be so thirsty and parched you're going to die. That's what the thought process is of what it's going to be like. It was incredible. I wasn't thirsty. I felt so much better. I didn't have that nagging hunger. The benefits of it are basically 1 day of dry fasting equivalent to 3 days of water fasting. And I just from a lot of different research I've done, I won't water fast now. I will only dry fast. But I've done multiple 2-day, 3-day dry fasts up to, I did a 5-day dry fast. I was thirsty on the 5th day. And I broke the fast. I just went by how I felt. But so yeah, I don't go along with the if you're menopausal you shouldn't fast. I don't go with that.
Built to fast. Evolutionarily speaking, that's why we get fat. Because fat is not only the fuel for your body, the building blocks for your body, but it also provides water. Did you know that? And every protein your Golgi apparatus and endoplasmic reticulum makes, those are structures in the cell that makes proteins, makes water. So we make plenty of water for one, but what's the fuel for the body? Fat. Who's got fat on their body? Right? So why do we get fat? To fast, to migrate, to hibernate, to gestate, to live through famines and wars that probably we lived through since the dawn of time, right? So when fasting, by the way, a fasting blood test, it means there's no food in your gut. That takes at least 3 days. So I've gone 7 days. I've done 3 days without food or water. And, do you need to do that? You don't, but it's a challenge. One of the best things about fasting is food freedom. Now, I typically do 1 meal a day at night, and I do 2 to 3 days of fasting a month and 5 to 7, like 4 times a year. But do you need to do it? You don't have to. But the last I looked, I do look, when I do surgeries, I look inside, and the organs all look the same. We're all special, but not when it comes to physiology or biology. So we're all built to fast. And we get fat to fast. And so if you haven't tried it, done it, do it. It's amazing. And there's nobody, I don't care. You didn't say 50,000 years ago, I'm on my period, or I'm about to have my period. The universe doesn't know that. You're always hunting for food. The problem is our food is always abundant. It's like a trough. So I think fasting was one of the best things. And everyone talks about autophagy. You guys, the body cleans things up, right, and does some rebuilding. It's always happening. It doesn't matter if you're fasting or not. Always working to heal, repair, and the problem is we're throwing so much poison in our body via plants and a low-fat diet. So I think fasting is one of the best things we can do, and I learned much from SPG.
I wanted to add for you, so if you are intimidated or a little bit scared of fasting or extended fasting of any sort, write down the name Dr. Elizabeth Bright. If you don't know her already, she's just a wonderful buffer and primer for a life of fasting as a woman. And she writes books for not just young women or menopause women. She writes books for all ages. Her book, Good Fat is Good for Women, is a must read for every single age. So you could do fat fasting is what I was going to get at. So she really recommends, if you're scared of fasting, fat fasting is sustainable. Fat fasting is not going to wreck your hormones. There's no way you can push it. And she does recommend a very high fat carnivore diet, which is what I live by 6 years now. High fat, highly recommended for all women as a starter.
Next question. Let's go right there. Yeah.
I had been on carnivore and I had been on like a stall where, you know, I stopped like showing weight loss. And then I decided to try a fast, a 3-day dry fast. In the beginning of my carnivore journey, I stayed away from fasting because when I was keto, I over fasted, and eventually it stopped working because I was overdoing it. And then I just nourished a lot, and then I finally felt like I was ready. And what I noticed was I lost 4 pounds, and then when I went back to eating, I gained that 4 pounds. But then after that, it unstuck me again, and I was able to continue on my carnivore journey losing weight. So I'm curious if you guys know what the mechanism of action is that created that unstuck thing. Because even though like I lost the 4 pounds, gained it back, but then going there, I was able to continue to lose weight. I don't understand how that happened. If any of you can shed light.
I don't know. Anyone ever so I don't eat anything and I gain weight, or I eat nothing and I don't lose weight, right? What's our brain's ability to really know how much you eat or don't eat? What's our brain's ability, or then our bowel's ability in actually to internalize the calories that we consume, right? And then what's your metabolism like? And I can just tell you for me, I do a 7-day fast. I'd lose about 7 pounds. I do my usual workout, go to work every day. And then when I get back to eating again, it just comes back up, right? I don't know. You know, it's kind of hover between about 150 and 160. You know, I try to keep it about 155. But nobody really knows that answer because as Dr. Bart Kay would say, we got to lock you up in order to really measure what you really eat and how you move, because, you know, what's your metabolic rate and how much do you really internalize what you eat, how much goes out, and those sort of things. It's not very easy to know.
I'm going to add to that. When we're talking about weight loss, we're not being very specific as to where that weight came from. So you can have water weight, you can have weight that can come down from inflammation, you can have glycogen depletion, you can have muscle loss, and of course we can have the always coveted fat loss. So without actually putting you, like you're saying, in a test room to see where that weight came from, you could also be having that phenomenon that, you know, if you ever were like a bodybuilder in the fitness industry, the refeed, right? So the bodybuilders will obviously go through large points of time of depletion or eating very low calorie or below their baseline levels, and the body enters into a state where it wants to conserve energy and it doesn't want to give up any more of its stores. You then enter into a refeed where you may eat more than usual, which could have been the case for you, where you were eating carnivore, eating at lower amounts, you fasted, and then you refed, and it reminded the body, oh, okay, hey, we're safe. There's an abundance of food coming in. It's now safe to actually release more fat. Because here's the thing, if the body thinks that you're starving, it is not going to give up all that juicy, calorie-dense, nutrient-dense, stem cell-dense fat. Your body's first goal is to keep you alive. If it thinks you're starving, you're not giving up the goods, okay?
I love what Dr. Solt said, because I definitely want to put in on that. Emmeline, thank you for that question. But first of all, I'm an experienced faster, and I've tried every little angle of it, trying to figure that out. So what I've noticed is that if the body does feel unsafe, like Dr. Solt says, it's going to allow you to lose weight, but by force, and it gains it back 10 times the amount. Now, but if you come in as a nourish fast, that's a totally different story. Nourish fast, and then you end up going into the fast. First of all, it's easy. You don't even realize it. And then, now there's a hunger wave, but it's not intense. When you get off the fast, sure, you will gain the weight, but what's interesting is that because it feels safe, it starts slowly going downwards from there. And then there'll be another plateau, and you do it again. But the importance is the parasympathetic, as you guys probably have heard, that the rest and digest, that's important. We don't digest if we're in a sympathetic, right? Hopefully I'm getting that right, Doc. Okay, just make sure. So, because you're in fight, flight, freeze, what do you think it's going to do? It's like, I'm going to try to hold on to every fat, but you're forcing me to do it. Well, I'm going to gain it back right when you're going to give it to me, and I'm not going to trust you anymore. So the idea is to get your body feeling like, hey, I can trust you. I'm okay to do this. And I want to say one more thing. Imagine if we did not have a body that trusted us and we needed to hunt. When I fast, I'm at my best, okay? If you're not at your best when you're fasting, are you really ready? Are you really, what we call primed enough, nourished enough? That's the question to be asking.
Okay, let's go right over here.
Hi, my question is about fasting and then gallbladder problems. I did a bunch of fasting years ago and then ended up getting like gallbladder sludge. I had pain, so my doctor ordered an ultrasound and they said they found sludge or maybe tiny stones. So now I'm afraid to fast more than 16 or 18 hours. So what to do about that?
It's probably there already. And that's most likely because the sludge is all happening because of a lean meat, low-fat, plant-based diet. It takes years in most cases for us to set up because most gallbladder attacks happen after 30 in most cases. So I would say just you might fast fasting won't hurt it at all, but more fat for sure, and nourishment, as Raymond said, is probably real important. And stay away from the plants.
I'd like to tackle that too. Here's the thing. That's the danger of over-fasting and your body goes into a shock mode. Here's the thing. When we fast, and the reason we fast is not just autophagy. We also go to a detox process. Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully you're hearing me. Okay, we're going through a detox process, but sometimes our bodies just can't handle that load. It's not nourished enough to handle that load. So there's a balance we need to achieve. I tell everyone, do not fast for weight loss. Do not fast for fat loss. Fast for that curiosity of how it feels when you're in the fast. If you're enjoying it, if you're feeling good, that's the time. That's the time. It should be more enjoyable than eating almost. At least mine are. So what I'd like you to do is get your body to feel safe again, where it automatically just says one day, I just don't want to eat. And I mean, when I was in one day, first one meal, like you've probably done 2 MADs, that's fasting. And then there's sometimes you're so busy that you're like, I didn't realize I didn't eat. Then your body's kind of ready, but keep it safe and then increase from there, a ladder kind of style.
I had a follow-up question, actually, that I think you might be a good person to answer this, Raymond. For people that have had a history of yo-yo dieting, and they tend to binge and then fast and then go up and down, and they want to do it for weight loss, and there's a lot of young women who've done that, and it's like I used to do that. How does one have the discernment to know when and how to approach fasting to get the health results that they want? Or how do you work with people to know the difference?
Lauren, that's a very good question. Sorry, I'm looking at you and talking. But that's a really good question. So first of all, I even tell my clients that are bingers and even anorexic that they can fast. The thing is the trick is how well they feasted first. I'm a binger. And I automatically went to fasting because at first I learned the hard way. I binged with carnivore foods, got uncomfortable, and then I realized, wait, I shouldn't get uncomfortable. Then I learned how to be comfortable and pushing 3 meals a day until I just can't. So when my body felt safe at that point, then all of a sudden, when I fasted, my cravings, my binge thoughts just was gone. It's like I ate normal meals after that. When it was time to eat, even after alternate day fast or rolling 48s, I ate normal meals. And it felt like it's normal meals. There were times I literally thought, did I eat yesterday? That's an amazing feeling when you get there. And a lot of people that we teach, that's what they get. They're like, that's incredible. I would have never thought I would have to think whether I ate yesterday. So hopefully that helps. Thank you.
And one other thing is that, remember, fasting is ketogenic, and a carnivore is ketogenic. And so those two things will help your mind be more clear, your ability to do things that you thought you couldn't do much better and stronger. And remember, fasting is a spiritual experience also. Truly, anyone and everyone can do it. So that's the power of fasting. And I think more than a day is really powerful personally.
All right, let's do our next question. Yes, right here.
Hi, just a quick question. Regarding carnivore diet and fasting, how's about parasites? You know, does fasting helps? Because like nowadays there's lots of talks about pets has parasites and we take them to vets, but we don't usually deal with our parasites. So does the fasting helps with that? Maybe to clean your body from those things, because everyone has it apparently. Thanks.
Parasites? I've not seen parasites in my practice ever. I think it depends where you're at in this world. They're probably more common in other places, but you think about it, what are the parasites really eating? The food you're eating. So if you're fasting, again, if you look at healing, fasting is one of the best things you can do. But one of the other things against parasites is butter. Because fat, you ever notice fat and butter never molds? Right? And so when you consume the fats, it kills and reduces the concentration of the microbes in our gut, which are causing many of our problems of IBS, and I'll go down the list of that. So I personally think fasting can help with parasites, but I'm not sure what parasites we're talking about in general, but I think it's bacteria, yeast, and viruses.
I'll add to that parasite conversation slightly. I'm a naturopathic doctor. Everyone assumes I do parasite cleanses for patients, and I don't. I will prescribe antiparasitics in situations that actually require it, because the question here is actually a larger question. It's not whether parasites are the problem, it's whether or not you're a good host for them. We actually have parasites in us at all times, and we usually have a symbiotic relationship with them. They shouldn't be causing you problems unless you as the host have an issue. So like Dr. Kiltz was saying, if you're on a proper human diet, if you are eating things that don't actually feed the parasites and they can just be there as our friends, just like all the other microbes in us, you're not going to have an issue. So stop believing the hype.
Dr. Soul.
Is bacteria, yeast, and virus a parasite? Parasite, you said they're in us all the time, and I'm curious, really a parasite is a harmful microbe, but we talk about some of them, they're there, but they're not hurting us.
No, I think it's more like a taxonomy classification versus like a labeling things, because I mean, we all have those X's that are parasites too. So depends how you define it.
Dr. Solt, follow up. Follow up from that, just what do parasites typically feed off of, if, to address that question and see if fasting could be working with removing that?
A lot of them will feed off of glucose. It's one of the easiest forms of nutrition for them. Yeah.
And they come from plants. So
Thank you.
You're feeding them what they feed on, and you're actually eating what they are carried on. So that's why the plants are deadly. But when you eat the meat, the beef is best, and really even pork is rare. We don't hear about parasites anymore, but they're just not in the beef. They're not inside the muscle meat and the organ meats in general.
All right, good question. Let's go right here, and then we'll make our way back.
Here I am again. I'm a prolonged fasting person. I do help people fasting, and I really want to say this. There is no difference between eating and fasting. The way you should feel when you fast should be no different. You should be able to do absolutely everything you do while you're eating. You should do exactly the same as when you're fasting. And I don't know if anybody would think this, but anybody who's carrying around excess weight, sorry, I'm taking over the panel, I'm sorry. Anybody who's carrying on extra pounds of fat, every pound of fat you have is 3,500 calories worth of energy. They're groceries. We have packed all these groceries on our body. If you have 100 pounds to lose, you have 350,000 calories of energy on your body. And I hate to watch people just lose the weight and not take advantage of autophagy. That's huge. It's like autophagy is such a gift. It's God's best design because we are made to heal ourselves. Our bodies do this already. So I'm thrilled, although it's the last thing on this carnivore weekend, my first ever, that we're talking about fasting, because I cannot stress enough all the things you're stuck with, or you've been on carnivore for a while and you barely get into a 24-hour fast. It's like you're doing such a disservice to your body to not give it that 72+ hour fast. I think it's super, super important, and I'm glad we're talking about it today. But once you get 2 or 3 fasts past 72 hours, your 4th, 5th, 6th will be absolutely normal and perfect. There's no difference. You can do anything. I've done a 96-hour dry fast as well, and it was just simple. Nothing happened. Before I broke that fast, and I was in the middle of a 9-day fast, I took 4 days to do dry fast. I was riding a bicycle up a mountain. I don't ride bikes. And I could do it. It's just nothing happened. So give it a chance and help your body heal quicker instead of having to take the long route. But thank you.
Thank you. Yes, let's go right here. That's where I was going next. Right in the purple, over this way. Yes, Emily, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being there. Okay, we both do fasting. He does 2 meals a day. I do 1 meal a day. I typically do anywhere from 20 to 24 hours. I'm good with that. I don't love extended fasting. That being said, we've done 120 hours before every Holy Week. So going back to what you said we should get the aha, and I hear it all the time. I do not get this that I am just like, feeling really good, high energy, and I get frustrated that I hear this all the time, that we should be feeling that. That do I continue on with my normal activities? Yes, I can. I work out, I do residential house cleaning, so I am up, and moving, but I don't feel like, aha. I don't get into ketosis. I know this because I've checked my blood, and I know after 3 days of doing fasting, I've checked, I get barely, it's either no ketosis or very minimal ketosis. Only it's when I do a sardine fast do I get into ketosis, so I get really frustrated with that. But that's even after a long, and that's only minimal after I do a sardine fast. So I just get frustrated that I don't get that aha feeling that everybody talks about, and I don't love extended fasting. And I'm a diehard black coffee, water only when I do my fasting.
I'm going to jump in because I think I know what you're asking, and I want to just talk to people about this. So I feel like a lot of people experience this issue where they try fasting or they try getting into ketosis, and no matter what they do, they can't reach it. Okay, so first thing we need to understand is the body can only run on two fuel sources. You can run on ketones or you can run on glucose. If you don't have the metabolic flexibility initially because of your previous standard American diet or whatever it was that you were eating prior to carnivore, it's going to make it very hard for you to transition from being a sugar burner to a fat burner. And there can be many, many reasons for that. A common reason that I see that a lot of people actually don't talk about is actually a carnitine deficiency. So carnitine is a nutrient that actually shuttles those free fatty acids into the mitochondria when you start entering into ketosis or where you finally deplete your glucogen and glycogen stores. If you're going through fasts and you're not hitting that, whatever it is, it's because you're not producing ketones. That's what creates that kind of bliss state. Your brain gets saturated with them. You feel really good. You're running on very clean burning energy. You're not going to get there without entering ketosis, so you're not going to get there if you're not burning your own fat for fuel, which means, what does that mean? If you're not burning fat for fuel, you're burning glucose, right? Everyone can agree with that? So if you're in a fasted state and you're burning glucose, but this is, I know, you're probably going to counter me, and that's totally fine. I want you to.
Not counter, just give another idea.
No, and that's fine. I'm just talking from what I see clinically. So I feel like every doctor has a bias from what walks into their office. So I'm speaking to what I'm seeing in my patients. And the picture that I see is if they're not getting into ketosis, they have to burn glucose. They're doing it through gluconeogenesis at the cost of their lean muscle mass. So you may still get weight loss, but you're not going to enter into that ketosis bliss because you're now going to be in a stress state because that's actually going to drive your cortisol up. When you drive cortisol up, your other hormones start to decline. You actually put yourself into further insulin resistance because of this, and you can actually perpetuate driving your A1C higher. So the answer here is not to not fast. The answer here is to actually do it slowly with a coach, ideally somebody looking at your labs and your numbers so that you can actually ensure that you're getting into ketosis. But I'll let you jump in too.
There's other things that go into the aha of life. You're working, you're coughing all the time, you're stressing. This is where meditation, prayer, journaling, reading, listening comes in. Taking naps. I take naps, right? And so, you know, there isn't one thing that fixes all things. Fasting is pretty remarkable for many people, but it's also very hard because if your sugar levels are high all the time, and this is where, see, most people's sugar levels are high and we're addicted to sugar because sugar sweet was around at a time when you needed to get fat to survive the hibernation, migration, gestation, or famines, right? And so it is not easy to do. But once you've done it a few times, as this young lady mentioned, it's amazing to do it. Again, there are many other things that aren't just fasting. So you have to look at the whole picture. One thing doesn't matter. Glucose, by the way, is a glycosylating agent. Glycosylation is critical for proteins. 80% of proteins are glycosylated. That gives them the proper function. So I believe, and this is counter to most of what we say, is that we burn both sugar, we burn fat. I say we only burn fat because if you can't make fat, you die. If you're bulimic, you die, right? At some point, liver failure will create that. So, but the real problem is we're addicted to sugar and it's hard to do fasting because most people who eat one meal a day, if their gut's not empty, a high protein, low fat diet, and again, I'm going to keep on bringing up Pottinger's cats because it's when you cook the meat, it damages it and it lowers the fat level. And real fat is raw fat, and that'll help, I believe, lower your sugar levels and make it easier to do. But again, you got to look at the whole picture and not just one thing. I think coffee is not good for us in general, and remember, it's a stimulant, but it could also end up as a depressant. Levels go up, levels go down. That's that cycle.
I have a question. So typically what time do you eat your OMAD?
Around 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so I recommend you have your OMAD for breakfast. And so you break that fast top of the morning so that you don't spike your cortisol in the morning when you wake up. Sabrina can talk about this, but I actually did OMAD for about 1.5 years in the middle of my carnivore journey, and I had my OMAD at night. And I was like, I love how I feel during the day, fasted, I push myself, I do all the things I want, I eat at night, and then I conk out. And doing that for so long could be the reason why you're starting to see less and less of the aha moment.
I change it up on the weekends.
Yeah, okay, so try breakfast every day for about a month and really focus on nourishing. I wanted Raymond to talk about priming because maybe you just need a little bit of re-nourishing. Yeah.
Yeah, There's no need to get rid of the coffee, but the coffee should be after a meal. Okay, so just like Bella said, I know nobody likes that, right? It ruins the coffee bliss. I get it. But fasting on coffee, yeah, sure, it's easy, but are you really nourished? And now when it's time to eat, are you really eating like you're supposed to? So my question for you, have you ever taken a chance to truly allow your body just to feast, to be able to gather and feel safe? In the priming classes that I teach, I say, hey, 3 meals a day for 2 weeks. For some who's been carnivore experienced for a while, you just need to go a week. But you gotta almost hate eating 3 meals a day. I'm talking about at the end, like you just can't do it. And then 2 meals, start feeling great, and you're feeling your hunger signals. That's the other thing, guys. Everybody thinks that, hey, my hunger signals are gone. That's a great thing. No, it's not. You want it to be there. If it's not there, that means it gave up on you. You don't want it to give up on you. These are signals and hormone signals that are so important. I hear so many clients with OMADs, like they constantly stay on OMAD, and eventually just degrades them more and more and more. And the problem is we're not doing carnivore anymore. We're just getting ourselves towards a slow starvation and not even realizing it.
Thank you all.
Awesome. All right, I think we have time for 2 more. Okay, we've got time for 2 more. So let's go to this gentleman right here, if you would, please. Thank you.
Hello. This weekend, we've never really addressed quality of water. And, I mean, that's so important to us, but it's never been addressed. We make our own distilled water, and we do add amino acids. I just would like to get some feedback from you all about quality of water, because it seems to me that'd be extremely important.
Yes. I really want to touch up on that. So just real quick. So if we think distilled water is like the best, or say, filtered water or reverse osmosis, the best water is the water that comes from your fat cells. The dry fasting, like Dr. Lisa Wiederman, it taps into this metabolic living water. If you guys want to check out about living water, there's other ways to get it. But what we do is drink dead water all the time. But this is not really a talk for carnivores, because I don't want you guys to avoid water just to try to force it from your fat cells. This is something that you can build when dry fasting becomes automatic. That means you're truly fat adapted at that point. At least that's been my experience.
I would say, yeah, so if we're talking living water, the best living water is natural spring water. What you're referring to, I think when you say living water, I forget the guy's first name. It's like Gerald or something, but the last name is Pollock, Pollock, and he has research where he talks about something called easy water or exclusion zone water, because we hear about how the human body is basically made of water. But if you've ever cut open a human body or seen yourself on the inside, you're not water. You have organs, you have tissues, right? And in fact, it's the water that exists in this exclusion zone type. It's actually in a gel-like state. So water isn't just solid, liquid, gas. It's actually gel-like too, and that's what exists in us. And the closest thing in nature to that exclusion zone water is going to be water that's come from a spring and actually run through and vortexed, if you will. There's a lot of woo-woo that we can get into in this water topic, but Dr. Pollock's work is very interesting. There's also this lady that you can find on Instagram called Veda Austin, and she actually talks about how water has memory. And it's not just a quote from the Frozen movie that Olaf said. It's real, and she has really cool experiments. So water is a really big topic, and there's actually conventions out there dedicated just to water being this amazing life force that we all get to experience. So I want to add that.
And then you can add in the deuterium depleted water too.
And that, where's most of your water stored in your body? It's not stored in your body as water in fat cells. It must be converted to water, right, through ATP production, H2O and CO2. Majority of water is in the glycocalyx, which is the exclusion zone. So it's negatively charged. So think about the environment out here. If this had no vegetation, would there be a lot of water here? There wouldn't be. With the vegetation, which is the glycocalyx, it holds water. It's negatively charged. And so that exclusion zone is very critical. And the electrical charges are critical because when we destroy the glycocalyx, let's destroy all the plants here, or destroy the sugar layer on every cell of our body that lines every vessel is damaged. That's the sugar layer. There are 9 sugars in the glycocalyx. That's the glycobiome. Glucose is just another glycosylating agent. Even though we think it's energy, it must be converted to fat first, then it becomes energy. So the exclusion zone holds water. So when you have lots of plants, it holds water in the soil, and it slowly is released back into the environment. Remember, plants take up a lot of water, don't they? But then they release it at the same time. So the exclusion zone and easy water, it's all based on the glycocalyx, and I really recommend you look. With Stephen Thomas, I did a lecture a couple of years ago on the glycocalyx, and in our book on Kiltz's Keto's Carnivore, we talk about the glycocalyx, which is critical for holding water. And so in the gut, it holds water, and when you have a bug in there that causes an infection, quite often you get diarrhea, correct? Well, it's the exclusion zone releasing all the water that's trying to clean out the system, which is a very interesting component of all this easy water and gel-like water, but it's just held in the glycocalyx like it's held in the plants.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. One final question. Let's see here. Why don't we go right over there to the gentleman in the back? You, with the, yep.
Hopefully an easy question. At what point in an extended fast do you start cannibalizing your protein out of your muscles? And part 2, can you lift while you're yes, thank you, okay.
Actually, I really insist that you do some of your hardest workouts during that time. So at the point of 48 hours, your body gets a human growth hormone, at least so I've read, but I've experienced it. There's a difference, okay? So there's this surge of energy that kind of changes right about that 45th hour to be exact, that you just feel almost superhuman. And it follows right by a slight hunger, like almost like a hunger for a kill. Like you're going for that. That's what you want. That increases your workout. It puts that animalistic passion in you. So yes, I want you guys, when you fast, don't try to just block it out. Pay attention. What hour gives you what? And then you'll figure yourself out. Where are you your fiercest? And I can tell you it's not right after eating. So I don't know if that helps, but really and honestly, you want to work out when you're at your best, right? That makes sense. Find out what hour that is.
Talk a little bit about intramuscular fat. Who likely here has intramuscular fat? Right? Fat, when you eat fat, and remember the standard diet has very little fat to no fat. Fruit, fiber, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and lean meat. Where's the fat? It's not there. But our fat tissue is, again, back to it's the energy for your body. And when you digest food, how do you feel? You're full. In many cases, people are feeling it, right? But when you empty the gut, you no longer are distracted by what's going on in your gut. That's digestion. Digestion sends all the amino acids and sugars to the liver, and via insulin, they're converted to fat. That's critical. Lipoproteins are created and shipped to every cell of your body. And so I agree with Raymond, and he's got the secret to fasting. It's salt. You add more salt. Salt, we don't use enough salt, and we're told you don't need it, but that's one of the tricks. You lick salt, and it helps the fasting tremendously. And I'm a mineral water person, plus I live on a lake, and we actually draw our water from the lake. It gets a little bit of UV stuff, but that's about it. But I think that's really important. But I do all of my same exercise when I'm on a 5 to 7 day fast, and it works fine. Because remember, the only fuel for the mitochondria is acetyl-CoA, which comes from fatty acids. Remember, if you're not losing weight, and you may be gaining water in the glycocalyx for sure, but most of it is still that there's food in your gut that's still making fat, and your input output, again, whatever we call it, is greater or less determined your weight. in so many ways. But energy is built, I think, in fasting. But is it required, Dr. Salt, to fast?
Not required, but it's encouraged. I really think so. Yeah.
All good there? All right, guys. Can we get a round of applause, please? Thank you. All right, guys.